it's fascinating how big a role the renewables can play in just global drive to the energy transition. So we need to be thinking to produce green hydrogen, we need a lot of cheap renewables. If we have this renewable energy already, why would we use it to produce hydrogen, right? Did we satisfy all of our electricity needs already? When we talk about what it takes to decarbonize our energy system, we always say it's all systems go. We need that approach that, yes, we need to build large-scale renewables at scale and speed that, not many industries have seen, or it's not happening that often.
Hello, I'm Noor, and welcome to this episode of the Energy Connects podcast. As we gear up for the World Utilities Congress 2025 this May, we're revisiting some of the standout conversations from last year at the Energy Connect studio. A key theme was the shift towards Utilities 4.0, an era where electricity, water, and gas sectors embrace digital technologies, automation, and data to drive greater efficiency and customer focus. Built on Industry 4.0 principles, this transformation involves smart grids, IoT, AI, and cloud computing to enable real-time monitoring, predictive maintenance, and smarter energy management. The aim: more sustainable, reliable, and responsive utilities with customers having more control than ever. In our conversation with Oxana Dankova, Global Energy Network Lead at BCG, we explored the future of renewables, the barriers in electrified mobility, and how AI and data are shaping power grids. Oxana is a founding member of BCG's Network Transformation Services team. She led efforts since 2015 to modernize energy networks. Today, she drives the firm's bionic network and zero-ready capabilities. Join us as we revisit this critical discussion, uncovering the future of utilities. Oxana, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Thank you. So my first question is on what, in your opinion, are the biggest challenges within the renewable energy system, and how integrating these technologies in electrified mobility can push forward the energy transition?
Thank you for the question. There are quite a few overlapping challenges, I'd say, that need to be solved to respond to your question. First of all, I think it's fascinating how big a role the renewables can play in just global drive to the energy transition, right? Because we are talking about an energy system which is going to be much more electrified in the future. If in today's world we probably have about 20% of the total energy needs being covered by electricity, in the future it is expected to be up to 50%. So that's quite a significant growth. And we want to have that energy renewable. The challenges that come with that is that majority of the renewable energy sources are very volatile. So they're weather dependent and they're cyclical, through the day, through seasons, and there are things like clouds and such things that make this energy really volatile. At the same time, being electric, these systems need to be balanced in real time at every point in time. So you really need every electron that's produced, generated, kilowatt hour of electricity to be consumed or stored at the same time. So it really puts a big challenge on us to either create systems that allow redirect these flows at the right time, in the right location, or having the right storage systems. And then there is an adjacent complexity to it with the broader energy system, where we'll have many more new sources involved as well, right? Things like green hydrogen was not a thing. I'd always start using biofuels and other things. And there are trade-offs between these different sectors, right? So we need to be thinking, to produce green hydrogen, we need a lot of cheap renewables. If we have this renewable energy already, why would we use it to produce hydrogen, right? Did we satisfy all of our electricity needs already? Mm-hmm. And this seems to be a trivial task, right? But it's not, because we also are on the journey of electrifying a lot of our energy needs. And so you need to be thoughtful about the timing of electrification so that we are not generating the demand for electricity that we can't satisfy with renewable energy. In some places, even today, we are, buying electric cars and charging them overnight with coal-fired generated power. Right? So this is totally not helping the energy transition. And so we need to be thoughtful about these time horizons. We need to be thoughtful also intraday how the demand matches supply, which we never needed before. And because with dispatchable energy, we just needed to make sure that peak demand can be covered by generation and our network capacity. But now we really need to be thinking intraday, with 5-minute intervals. Are we balancing that supply and demand?
How do you feel about the role of data and the AI? How crucial are these technologies in integrating renewables within power grids and energy systems?
I don't think it would be even possible if it didn't have big data processing capabilities and AI and broad advanced analytics to make this work. We need to plan for the infrastructure, and that involves, simulating multiple scenarios at a very granular geographical levels, right? And that intraday granularity, you can't do that manually, right? And it's not one scenario. You'd be looking at, what happens if we have a sunny weather? If we don't have sun, if we don't have wind, what happens? Like, how do we satisfy our needs on that day? And so you simulate all those scenarios. Then you need to plan for what's the right infrastructure to build, right? And where we should locate it. What do we do with gas networks? What do we do with electricity grids? Where do we build hydrogen locations? Right? How do we pair that with water treatments? On a side note, I was so fascinated to learn about what Taka is doing here with water treatment, and also how the decoupling of power generation from the desalination technologies is happening here. I think, these are the things you can't just manually simulate and decide, right? You need the help of computers to run all this analysis.
I wanted to get your expertise on decentralized grids. You mentioned earlier about centralized grids. So how do you think decentralized grids would benefit, especially developing countries, and advance their energy transition?
So if we kind of take a step back, when we talk about what it takes to decarbonize our energy system, we always say it's all systems go. We need that approach that, yes, we need to build large-scale renewables at scale and speed that, not many industries have seen, or it's not happening that often. Right? At the same time, we need to be thinking thoughtfully about the speed of electrification, which use cases we want to electrify by when, so that we have energy for them. We also need to leverage, squeeze the most out of the distribution grids. And what we mean by that is that actually in today's world, nothing stops us from having more electricity generated and stored closer to consumption. And because especially with things like electric vehicles, it makes total sense. And it really allows us to not overbuild the large-scale grid as well. Because we could satisfy, close to half of the energy needs of distribution connected customers with just electricity that's, generated around them. If we plan the right system, right, and if we enable the right mechanisms there.
How is integrating renewables and EV adoption evolving globally? And in your opinion, which regions are driving that?
I wouldn't say there is a single region that's excelled in both sides. I would suggest that it's really at the distribution grid level, at least, it's a customer-led adoption, and the companies that I'm seeing, being most innovative and really advanced in adopting and adapting are really adapting. They have to, right? One great example, and one of my favorites, is in Australia, the South Australian power networks. They've seen such a fast and high uptake of the rooftop solar penetration, so that the network, the distribution grid they became the biggest exporter of energy, of power in the state, in South Australia, to the big grid, right? So it's totally not how the systems were designed. Right? So they needed to learn how to deal with this, right? So you need to actually have some controls over what happens on people's rooftops. Because if you don't have enough demand from the central grid, then grid becomes unstable and you can get, the power blackout. And they had the situations where the, state was isolated from the rest of the grid, and they really, really tested the approaches, and it works, right? So they're introducing these real-time simulations of the grid to understand what might happen. They introduced dynamic operating envelopes, so the operating parameters that they tell their customers or retailers who operate their assets, how much they can export to the grid at each point in time. And because this is dynamic, they're not just curtailing at the lowest level, but so this allows you to really enable higher uptake and better utilization of the resources. So these are the smarts, again, that are made real by the use of data and AI. But on the other side, so that's the solar, right? The EV adoption, in Australia is not that high at all. If you look at Nordics, that's really high. If you look at, California, it's pretty advanced, right? In some European countries as well. So again, there is more thought put into how we organize charging, how we co-locate maybe our charging stations with rooftop solar and some batteries around, so that we don't need to upgrade the grid to enable it. Distributed energy resources in the grid. And we have a really broad definition of what that is, right? So it's both electric vehicles and storage and generation that's distributed both in terms of behind the meter on the customer side. We now call it customer energy resources, CER, and the resources that are connected directly to the distribution grid. So that's distributed energy resources.
Thank you, Oksana, for these wonderful insights.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Noor.
Thanks for listening. A lot of the key points discussed in this episode will be themes in the spotlight at the World Utilities Congress taking place between May 27 to May 29 in Abu Dhabi. To register for the event, visit worldutilitiescongress.com, and don't forget to follow us on social media and stay tuned to our website for more content like this. See you soon at the World Utilities Congress 2025.